for SalesLogix Web. Your presenter today is Scott Weber, and I'm just going to go through a couple things before we get started. You'll have noticed that your line is placed on mute. However, if you come up with any questions during this demo, please post those to the question pane, and either I will get to those while Scott is giving his presentation, or we can take those afterwards. But that is all I have, so I'm going to hand over the controls, Scott, so that we can get started.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And we are recording today's presentation as well, so on our Customer FX YouTube site, you will be able to see a recording for any of your team that might have missed this today. Okay, you can see my screen okay?
I can.
Okay. Thanks everyone, as Brianna said, for joining us again. We do these periodically to kind of showcase some of the third-party products and solutions available for SalesLogix. Today we're showing one that happens to be built and offered by Customer FX, and we do have a couple of modules that we have built and do market and sell for SalesLogix. This is one of our latest ones, and it's really geared toward companies that are in a services type industry that have a need to manage projects. Seems to be a natural for a business to sell their services, maybe using the SalesLogix Opportunity Manager, and that then upon selling a project or a deal can result in a project. And so what I'm going to show you today is how we've built out a project management solution that's seamlessly built into SalesLogix. It's linked to other data entities within SalesLogix, and to me it's a very natural flow from the sale of a project in an opportunity, and then the components for managing that project are all included. So you'll see that today. We do have a website that you can go to. It's apps.customerfx.com, and that's what I'm looking at here is the website, and I thought we'd get it out of the way right up front is what does this thing cost? And we really have a couple of different pricing models, as you can see. There is a $9.95 a month for unlimited users. It is based on named users. With that said, all of your SalesLogix users do not have to be licensed to use Power2Projects. And so you'll see in the middle that the entry point is $239 a month for up to 20 users, and then additional users beyond that are a $12 a month cost. We also have a free version for 3 users, and this is a fully functional version of the software. You can actually even download it right from this site. You can see the download links underneath these pricing graphics. And you can also download the documentation. Now, this is designed and built exclusively for the SalesLogix Web Client version 7.5.4. So that would be, I guess, the first order of business is you've got to be on that version in order to have Power2Projects, which is what we're showing today. And again, the 3-user version is not time-bombed. It's an indefinite way for you to kind of kick the tires on this and see if it's a good fit for your business before investing anything for the rest of your users. And the other thing I'll add is that, as I mentioned, even though not all of your SalesLogix users need to be licensed, all the users would still have visibility at a summary level to the projects that are in SalesLogix. They just can't add project data or do any editing of existing projects. They can basically just see what's there in a summary view, but they do have some visibility into it. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the actual SalesLogix web client now. So I'm in my demo 7.5.4 system, and the first thing you'll notice is that this is actually built as what they call a top-level entity. So just like accounts and opportunities and tickets are top-level entities, Power2Projects is also a top-level entity. So you're going to see some familiar design elements like, for example, the top half of the screen we call the detail view. and you're going to see information in here about this particular project. You can see that it's linked to an account, Abbott Limited, and it's also linked to an opportunity. It doesn't have to be linked to an opportunity. That's just a function that's available if that's the way your organization wants to use it. These projects can be freestanding. They do have to belong to an account, but they don't have to be linked to an opportunity. You can also see in the upper right corner that we have some summary data. I'll dig into that a little bit more. And then down below, you have the familiar tabs that you typically see in a SalesLogix entity, and I'll kind of explain what those do and what they're for as well. Now, in addition to this detail view, we can also shift into the list view, which you can do with all entities in SalesLogix. So in this particular list view, we're looking at what we call a summary view, and I've got my tabs which represent groups. So like other SalesLogix entities, you can build groups that are based on filters, just like you see across the top here. And I can also show you the regular list view like the other entities. All right, so we'll drill back into our little demo project here, and I'll show you some of the other functionality as it relates to other data in the system. So if we go to the Abbott Limited account record, which I just clicked on that by clicking on the name, and there's a hyperlink that takes me over to now the Abbott Limited account record, and in here we've added a projects tab. So if Abbott Limited has any projects in the system, you're going to see these under the projects tab, and indeed there are 2 of them here. And the other thing I can do is if we go back to the project, we will be able to go to the opportunity that it's linked to. So I clicked on Abbott Limited Phase 1. That's the opportunity this was created from. And you'll also see that there's actually 2 different projects. And again, I think that's definitely the way the real world works, is that any given opportunity that sales has closed and won could in fact generate multiple projects for different phases or aspects of a project. So that's why you're seeing projects are one-to-many against an opportunity record. And you'll also notice that any of these project-related tabs have these filter capabilities built into them. And so if you were to type in a letter or string of characters in any one of these filters and then click on the filter button, it would return a list of only those opportunities that had a matching character, of course, in that particular field. You'll see this throughout all of the different Power2Projects tabs. So we'll jump back now to the web implementation project. This is obviously the kind of project Customer FX would typically do, so I built this little demo based on implementing a SalesLogix system. Over on the nav bar, I've got a projects area. So it's from here that I can see projects, tasks related to projects, templates. There's also some graphical analysis tools, and then time slips, which is our version of a punch card, and we'll explain that a little bit more too as we go. All right, now the other thing I want to show you while we're here is I've also got the SalesLogix customer portal installed, and anybody that's got the Premier edition of SalesLogix or that's purchased the customer portal separately, as you know, the customer portal allows your customers to create support tickets. And what we've done is we've added onto that out-of-the-box customer portal the ability for your clients to log into that portal and see their projects. And it's a limited view, of course, and what I'll say is that what you see when you get here as a customer is completely adjustable and configurable. We just picked and chose certain elements of a project that we think a customer would want to see or we would want them to see. So this is not a complete view into all of the project-related data. It's more of a high-level kind of a summary view so that your customers can come in here and see the status of their projects, tasks that are underway, any of the contacts that are part of a project, related documents to a project. They can add notes, and they can also add tickets that are linked to the project, and that's useful if your customer has something they need to do in order to keep a project moving along, you can use tickets to assign specific tasks and responsibilities to them, and then by coming into the portal, they can update that data and collaborate with you on this. So that's the portal, and you can also see any tasks that are associated with this particular project and this particular customer through the portal as well. All right, so we'll jump back into the Power2Projects screen in SalesLogix. And as we said, the projects have a name. This is something typically a project manager would come up with. The project manager would create these projects. They can have a type associated with them. These pick lists, of course, are adjustable. The project manager in this case is Lee Hogan. We've already seen it's linked to a phase 1 opportunity. It's got a status, a start date, an estimated close date, and then the actual end date, which may or may not be the original date that was selected. But we think these are all important data metrics that are typically tracked with any given project. And then over in the upper right corner, we have what we call the snapshot. And the snapshot is a summary of the number of hours and dollars that are being consumed throughout the Congress of this project. So again, as a user or a project manager, at a glance, you can come in here and see exactly where things stand. You'll also see that we have an expense component in here too. So this $6,188 is the sum of all the consumed time that's been spent on this customer's project, along with any expenses that have been incurred. Now, you'll also see on here an analyzed project. So while we're up in this area, I'll click on that. And this takes us to one of the on-screen reports that's part of Power2Projects. So because I had that SalesLogix web implementation project highlighted, it automatically defaulted to giving us a graphical representation of where this project stands on time and budget. And those are, again, key components of a project that a manager is typically trying to manage. And what you can see is that if we say for the data import blueprinting task, one of the things that has to be done to get this project completed, that 24 hours have been authorized by the project manager. They have made available 24 hours of time to be then assigned to one of the SalesLogix users to actually fulfill this task. So 24 hours has been authorized to spend. We can see that 22 of those hours have been released to a user, and that's the concept there, is that the customer is the one who authorized the time, and the project manager is the one who releases that time or assigns that task and a set number of hours to one of the SalesLogix users who is tasked with performing the task. So they're the ones getting the work done, and they do that by recording time slips, and that's what the green bar in the 20 hours represents. Now, if we scroll down a little bit further, we can pivot this little arrow and get a little bit more granular information about this particular project. Again, where we stand, authorized time versus consumed time. And you can see that we've done some things with color coding over here to kind of give you a graphical representation that, okay, green is good, yellow is caution, meaning I'm nearing consuming all of the authorized time for this particular task, and then red is I'm over, I've actually consumed more time than was authorized for this particular task. So let's jump back into the project screen itself, and we can do that by just clicking on the hyperlink here on the analysis screen. And we'll go through some of the other functions in here. Okay, starting on the left, the first thing we typically do, again, as a project manager, is we assign resources, and these are people resources. So in this particular project, we've got Lou Balvo and John Abbott, who have been associated with this project. And if we were to go to either John or Lou's contact record, there's also a project tab there that shows them what projects they are associated with. And we also have documents. And documents really do a couple of different things within the Power2Projects tool. They not only allow you a way to store files, PDFs, Word docs, spreadsheets, image files, whatever it is that's relevant, you can store and associate those to a project. And if we edit this top one here, we'll see that this is an actual RFP. So this is a document that was used to scope out this particular project. And this one happens to be a change order. And again, it's a pick list of the type of document you're adding here. But what I want you to notice is that we've also put in a checkbox that makes visible the time and budget fields. So this is how the project manager loads authorized time by the client into the project. A document doesn't have to do that. It's just an option. And again, it's based on the fact that in the real world, we require customers and clients to authorize time in writing, which usually means there's going to be a sales order, a change order, a purchase order, some piece of paper somewhere that somebody has signed or authorized that's going to contain hours and dollars in it that we can load into the project. So again, this is how time and money becomes available to be spent on a project. Okay, the next tab I'll show you is expenses, and that's just what it sounds like. These allow users to add miscellaneous items that are not part of a task. They can add these on the fly as needed. That can include things like per diem, meals, travel, supplies and things like that that would be part of just kind of the miscellaneous expenses that typically go into a project. Now we're going to talk about tasks, and tasks are used by the project manager to start to divvy out the various tasks that have to be performed in order for this project to become completed. And so we allow you to break that down into logical tasks, and then using those dollars and hours that we loaded in the documents, you can start to assign a predicted a number of time and dollars that your project manager thinks it's going to take to accomplish these specific tasks. These tasks are also assigned to a particular user using the time slips function. And just like we saw on the analysis screen, these are color-coded as well, so that as a project manager at a glance, I can see I'm in trouble on some of these tasks. We're going over budget. I can also see we haven't done anything as far as beta testing in this example yet because no time has been consumed as of yet for that particular task. Now, the other feature we have in here is these tasks, and we're very much this way. A lot of times when we implement a SalesLogix project, we end up doing the same tasks over and over again. There's always unique twists and turns and unique tasks for a given project, but also a lot of them are cookie cutter or the same. So we have the concept in here of a template. And so rather than add these tasks individually, which you can do, we allow you to build task templates. And these templates can represent predefined sets of tasks. So I've got a dozen or so task templates already loaded in the system, and I can select one of those, and when I do that, it's going to add all the tasks that are part of that template to the tasks for this particular project. And so you manage that over here on the nav bar again in the task templates area. So for example, if we open up one of these task templates, you will see the items that are part of this particular template. So this one is the server software template, and if I was to grab that and use it for a project, these are all the tasks that are going to end up being copied into that particular project. It's just a time-saving feature because so many of us end up doing the same tasks over and over again. We think that's a very helpful feature. Okay, so coming back in to the project screen again, tickets. Tickets, as you know, are a standard feature of SalesLogix support tickets, and we also know that throughout a project, you may have issues that need to get resolved. And so we allow you to link tickets, the out-of-the-box tickets function in SalesLogix, to a project. So if we go into this ticket number 05, for example, we'll see that it is linked to this particular project. I click that here. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. Sorry, my screen might be lagging a little bit behind. Okay, so ticket number 05 does have links to a project, and you can see that under the Projects tab that indeed it is part of this web implementation project that we're working on today, and then optionally you can link it to a specific task within that project. Okay, so we'll jump back to the project here. And activities. We also know that as part of getting a project completed, you may have activities. So we've also integrated the out-of-the-box activity area to projects. So what that allows you to do is meetings, phone calls, and to-dos, for example, we've added at the bottom of those screens the ability to link it to a project and a task within that project. And as you would expect, when your users complete these tasks, if they are linked to this project, they're going to show up in the History tab, just like they show up at the Contact History and the Account History record. Okay? The next thing I want to show you, which I think is really one of the coolest features in here, is the timeline. And those of you that are familiar with Microsoft Project or projects in general know about the concept of a Gantt chart. And so that's what we're looking at here. This is a representation of all of the notes, the expenses, the documents, the tasks, all the stuff we've been talking about today that relates to a project. We're seeing it overlaid on a calendar. And so down at the bottom, I have the option to grab that time bar and slide it back and forth so that within the window on the screen, we are looking at a different chunk of time on my calendar. The more little tick marks there are down here, the more data that we're going to expect as we move the slider into that date slot. So you can see that there are a variety of different tasks and project elements, notes, and so forth in here. But you can also see that if a particular task has been has a start and a predicted end date, we're talking about duration here, that a blue bar is going to appear across the calendar, and that blue bar represents what the project manager put in here for a start date and a projected end date of a particular task. That's very much the way projects are. Oftentimes you can do multiple tasks at one time, but then there are other tasks that are dependent on previous tasks to get done before you're even eligible to work on the next step within a linear kind of a task flow. So that's what we're looking at here, is how long are we expecting that particular task to last across the calendar. Next thing we'll show you is notes and history. And as we mentioned, as you complete activities, there's a history tab. There's also in SalesLogix 754 a notes and history tab, which is basically the same data as notes and history, except combined into one screen. And you have the ability to filter these. You can also email these entries. This is all standard SalesLogix notes history tab functionality. We just made it available in Power2Projects as well. You'll also see on here that we have a concept of public notes, and the public notes are the notes that are added into the system that the customer gets to see on their project portal. So we show the project portal earlier. The notes tab there is public notes, and then we also have private notes. Private notes are notes that are added by the project manager or a SalesLogix user that we do not want seen by the customer on the project portal. So we have the ability to easily differentiate what we want them to see versus what we don't want them to see regarding notes. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is the time slips. So I'm logged in today as the administrator, and if I go to the time slips area, I've been assigned some tasks. And because of that, I have to complete the task using a time slip to indicate to the project manager that, okay, I'm part of a project, you told me that. There's tasks that need to be completed, and I've been assigned those tasks. And the time slips is the final entry point where, as an actual user of the system who's working and spending consumable time on the project, I have to complete time slips, which again is like a time card, where you start and stop the clock and then put in notes about exactly what did you do in that particular chunk of hours in a given day. So what I've done here is told the project manager that for this particular project, on a particular task, I worked 7 hours, and I worked those 7 hours in this particular date range. And if there's any notes or information about, well, what exactly did you do within those hours, I would be putting those notes in the notes area. And then as a result of this, this particular task is going to be dinged 2 hours in this case, because I told the system I consumed 2 hours on this date, and that, of course, is going to update the amount of available time and consumed time back on the project screen and those various analysis tools that we showed you. Okay, well, Brianna, I think that's everything that I was hoping to show today. Obviously, this was a very high-level flyby of what all the functionality is in here. Is there any questions from anybody?
I don't have any questions right now. I guess we can give it a couple seconds here. But if you don't have questions now, but you think of one later, please feel free to get a hold of me or Scott, or send an email to info@customersx.com. Scott and I will both get it from there, and one of us can take care of you. So yeah, I still don't have any questions.